What's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button for me. It definitely helps us out, and hit the bell so you get notifications whenever new videos come out. You know, ever since I got the X1 from ACEDECK, the number one question I've been getting from everyone is what's the range? People really want to know the range of electric skateboards and PEVs, and you know, range is a tricky one. There's so many factors that go into how far a PEV can go, like temperature outside and the weight of the rider, the style of the rider, and all of those things. So take everything I'm about to say with kind of a grain of salt, just knowing that. So this morning I went out and I did a range test on the board. Now, I'm gonna give you all the factors of the ride, and I'll let you deduce kind of what that means compared to how you ride, how heavy you are, and all that kind of stuff. So with all my gear on, my backpack, everything, I weighed myself on a scale before I went on the ride. I was 155 pounds. The temperature outside, it was 80 degrees. It was about 70% humidity. I don't think that has anything to do with it, but so you know, it was hot and sticky out. A big note on this ride was my tire pressure. Tire pressure can play a huge part in your range, and I will say my tires were a little low. I was right around 30 or 31 on each tire, and I wanted to get them inflated to 36 before I left on the ride, but I could not get my pump to get on the valve stem. It was really tricky. I picked up a new pump now that now can fit in that area. It's a tight space on some of the valve stems, so something to note. So because the hubs are smaller on like electric skateboards, sometimes it's hard to get a pump in there. So I went out anyway. So about 31 PSI on the tires. And I like to do range tests typically in realistic style riding. Most people don't ride above 30 miles an hour the entire time. Some do, and if you do, right on. You already know that riding that fast, that hard, is gonna lower your range. It's just a fact. Today, I stuck to eco mode for 98% of the ride. So eco will set you at like 25 miles an hour realistically. That's what I was getting on my GPS as I was riding, and I'm holding it full throttle in eco. So it goes low, eco, sport, sport plus on the board. Eco is a really nice acceleration amount on this board as well. It's not like crazy, because once you get to sport and sport plus, you gotta really be paying attention because the amount of torque this board has is just outrageous. So I think a lot of people out there are gonna be riding in this eco mode anyways. So about a 25 mile an hour top speed in this mode, and that gives me the ability to just kind of hold the throttle down and just carve as I ride, and I don't have to worry about being like halfway and I gave it too much or I gave it too little. It's just like, just hold the sucker and just ride and have a good time. I mean, this is all on like smooth bike paths as well. So I rode for just over an hour. I took almost no breaks. The breaks I did take were probably like under a minute, and I probably took 3 of those. I like to just ride and not stop. That's way more enjoyable to me. But it was hot, so I'd stop, take a little drink of water, throw it back in my bag, and then off and running again. So this wasn't a stop and chill and let the battery kind of tone. It was just like, let's just ride. A few times during the ride, I decided, hey, let's like pop it up a little faster. I'd throw it into sport mode, and I got up to like just under 32 miles an hour a couple times. Not the whole time, just touching those speeds. I think that's what a lot of people do, is they'll go out on a ride, they'll cruise at like 20 to 25, and every once in a while they'll jam up to like 30 or so. The board will go much faster, it'll hit 37 miles an hour, but on this ride I wanted to be realistic, like I said. So with all those factors together, I ended up with 20.3 miles of range. I rode until the board was at 10%, and I still had to get back to my car. When I got back, I mean, this thing is dead. It is all the way down. It's gotta be at like 5% or something. It is used up. And that's what I got. And that was riding in a way that is realistic and fun. Not 12 miles an hour trying to eke out range, and not 35 miles an hour just jamming as hard as I can. This was in 4-wheel drive the whole time, and it was super, super fun. Now, ACEDECK rates the board at having a 27 mile range, and I do think you can totally achieve 27 miles with this board. On my first video, if you go back to it, I used just over 50%. I used like 55, let's say, percent of the battery, so I had about 45% left, and I did 15 miles. So on that ride, I think my tire pressure was a little higher too. I would have been able to get the 27 miles, I think, on it. I think 25 miles is probably a realistic number for me on the board if the tires are pumped up to 36 PSI and I'm not going like over 30 the whole time. Now what's cool about this board is that if I wanted to, you can actually run the board in two-wheel drive, and I have ridden the board in two-wheel drive. I took off the front belts, I repaired the remote, so it's not like an instant thing. You can't just like flip to the mode. You gotta turn on the remote, hold down the power button. It lets you pick two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, and then you pair it. It only takes about, let's say 3 to 5 minutes to do the whole process of like, you just take the wheels off, take the belts off, and do it. It's not an instant thing, but it's very doable. And if you drop down to two-wheel drive, I guarantee you're gonna improve your range. But it's gonna be about half the power. Makes sense, right? You're gonna be putting 50 amps of power out instead of 100 amps of power out, pulling out of the battery and going to the motors. So I actually kind of think it's cool that if you go with the four-wheel drive, let's say you want to go out on a ride that's going to be like 30 miles or something, pull those belts off, run that sucker in two-wheel drive, and now you've got a board that can do that. And then on the next ride, let's say you want something that's just like hair on fire, insane acceleration, insane power, all that stuff, let's do it in four-wheel drive and let's crush it. Four-wheel drive for sure takes more power. It just does. It just sucks out more juice out of the battery. So what are my final thoughts on the ACEDECK X1? It's a really fun board. It's super slim, it's very well designed. The trucks are so nice. They're CNC'd and they are extremely stable. Going over 30 miles an hour on it was no problem for me. Hitting like 32 and just holding it. I could just hold it at 32 miles an hour and I was fine. I could go even faster than that and just hold it. Those TKP trucks, man, they feel fantastic. I've had a crazy amount of fun riding it. I wanna thank ACEDECK once again for sending me the board. They let me do my honest review of it, be fully open and transparent about everything with the board, and that was awesome of them. This brand really came out of nowhere and is bringing some amazing quality to the game, and I'm super excited to check out their new one coming out. It's a full off-road board called the Nix Z1, and that thing looks like a monster. So stay tuned for that. That's gonna be on the channel as soon as it's released. And if you're gonna be picking up an X1 or any of the ACEDECK boards, click the link down below. It'll help out the channel a little bit, helps me out, that's awesome. And remember to like and subscribe. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. I'd be happy to answer them. And I'll see you guys on the next ride.